So this is about the news from just a couple of hours ago that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, have both resigned from the United Kingdom's cabinet. So that came as a bit of a shocker to some people. They'd been muttering for a few weeks this kind of thing was going to happen. Now, both men say it because they've lost all confidence in the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, because of his handling of the Pincher affair. Remember, Pincher was Conservative MP and government official, and there were allegations of him sexually harassing men, of touching them against their will. These are not allegations of rape or attempted rape. That Boris Johnson was aware of these and denied being aware of them, and so on, and just disregarded these concerns. But he's lied to the public yet again. Um, a senior figure of the Conservative Party said to me not long ago that if Boris Johnson had a shred of integrity, he would resign now. But we know he has no integrity whatsoever. So methinks this is the incident, but not the cause of their resignations. They've been plotting this for some time, and this is a convenient excuse. There are other reasons to it as well. The subtext is, of course, remember, as Chancellor Exchequer, Sunak is effectively the UK's finance minister, and he's having to steward the economy, and it's not looking rosy. With inflation at an eye-watering 9%, probably going to rise. You know, there have been tax rises, there's squeezes on all budgets and things like that. How on earth is he going to manage that? And all of a sudden, he can disclaim responsibility. Well, he certainly doesn't need the cabinet salary. He's a self-made multi-millionaire, and his wife is married to his wife is the daughter of one of the richest men in India, an IT mogul. Sajid Javid is also very wealthy from his time working at Deutsche Bank. Obviously, the Chancellor of Exchequer is one of the great offices of state. Most prime ministers have held one of the great offices of state before becoming prime minister. The three great offices of state are Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, and Chancellor of Exchequer. There's also Deputy Prime Minister, but some people see that as a bit of a non-job. That's why Dominic Raab is often not thought to be really a contender for the Conservative Prime Ministership. Bojo put him there precisely because he's unthreatening, though I think that underestimates Raab. Anyway, Sajid Javid, well, look at the Department of Health. The National Health Service is really under strain. There's a waiting list of over 6 million, and that's just going to grow, especially in winter. A lot of procedures, checkups were cancelled during coronavirus, and then the backlog got worse. And the thing is, things which were routine then became urgent, got to be dealt with. They're struggling to recruit and retain doctors and nurses. There may well be more strikes there. They say that their salaries have been eroded by years of inflation, and in real terms, that these salary increments were not keeping pace with inflation. So there's going to be more misery there. Remember, 50% of nurses are from outside the United Kingdom because of Brexit. Doctors, nurses, dentists, whatever, pharmacists, they can't automatically come like they used to. So recruitment's become more of a problem. So it's really difficult for Sajid Javid. We may well have another wave of coronavirus this autumn. There may be some pressure to lockdown. I suspect the Conservatives that, but no doubt it will spread. So there weren't really good options for him. So again, he's able to absolve himself of responsibility. Now, who's going to be appointed? I mean, I suspect other people within the cabinet, more junior people. Now, no woman has ever been Chancellor of Exchequer. It's the only senior office I can think of, well, okay, apart from Deputy Prime Minister, that no woman has ever held. So I think Bojo might do a first there. Notably, both these men are ethnic minority. Rishi Sunak, obviously, is British Indian, born in the UK. He's a Hindu. Sajid Javid is born in the United Kingdom. He's ethnically Pakistani. He's a Muslim. So Bojo, he might well appoint one person from those, from who's a visible ethnic minority at least. There might be a sideways move Priti Patel into being Chancellor Exchequer or something like that. And I can tell you she is loathed in the Home Office. And it's actually very revealing who's respected by their civil servants and which cabinet ministers are detested by their civil servants. This is certainly destabilizing by Boris Johnson, and of course he knows all about this. Remember, he was Foreign and Commonwealth Secretary under Theresa May, and famously in that summer of 2018, it was because the Prime Minister's country residence in Buckinghamshire, and they had a weekend cabinet meeting, and that Monday, a letter of response to the resignation letter, and Theresa May wrote saying, well, I'm very surprised because you at the cabinet meeting, you agreed to everything on the agenda, and all of a sudden, the very next day, it's unacceptable. Bojo thought that resigning would stand him in better stead for the top job than staying in the cabinet, and of course, that proved to be correct. So both these men are men of vaulting ambition. Rishi Sunak's made little secret of his ambition to become prime minister. Will be the first visibly non-white prime minister of the UK. Of course, you had the Earl of Liverpool, 1812 to 1827, and most people don't realise he was 1/8 Indian, so in a sense he was a non-white prime minister. But people don't regard him as that. The first non-Christian prime minister. I mean, Disraeli, I know he was Jewish by background, but converted to Christianity at the age of 12. So some people think Nadine Dorries, a former nurse who's currently culture secretary, might be promoted to be health secretary. No nurse has ever been health secretary. There have been a few former doctors who've served as health secretary. So the former deputy prime minister, Michael Heseltine, conservative, now he's a crossbencher. He said this is inevitable. This is going to bring him down. And of course, he cast his mind back to 1990 when Margaret Thatcher's 11.5-year premiership was brought to grief by one of her big beasts, Douglas, what's his name? Sorry, Geoffrey Howe. Geoffrey Howe resigning. And various former leaders, Michael Howard, Lord Hague, they have said that Boris ought to stand down. Now, how much of this chorus can he stand up against? A lot of Tory grandees have said he's got to stand down. So if he doesn't, there's just going to be endless bad news. So, I mean, I do think Bojo's days are numbered. That doesn't mean he's going to resign today or in a week or even in a month, but it can't last that much longer. But there is a ray of hope on the horizon with the Conservative Unionist Party. If there is a new Prime Minister, they always go up in the polls, a bit of a honeymoon, call a snap election, and the Conservatives are not far behind in the polls. Astonishingly, only 3%. They obviously deserve to be much further behind. Anyway, there have been other resignations. Other news, other people are speaking out against him. You know, obviously, 41% of Conservative MPs voted against Bojo on the 5th of June, and if they had that vote now, it'd be higher. The 1922 committee, which represents Conservative backbenchers, that's being re-elected. Who's on that 1922 committee, and they can change their own rules. Remember, the rules are currently if the leader of the party survives a leadership challenge, no leadership challenge can be held for a 12-month, or I should say vote of confidence rather. But they might say, no, it can be held any time or a month later or 6 months later or something. Even the Conservative Party admits things have not gone very well. So who could be promoted? Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, that'd be sort of sideways move. Kwasi Kwarteng, the Business Secretary. And no black person has held any one of those two offices, which are now available. The Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, he's really rated. Dominic Raab, he's Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary. But I think being Deputy Prime Minister is probably too time consuming to be either Chancellor Exchequer or Home Secretary at the same time. He'd have to no longer be Deputy PM and move into one of those positions. Mary-Anne Trevelyan, things like that. Jacob Rees-Mogg, a fellow Aldertonian, Oxonian, a bosom buddy of Boris Johnson, he could move there. Alistair Jack, who's currently the Secretary of State for Scotland. Brandon Lewis is the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Or Simon Hart, who's the Welsh Secretary. So Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of Her Majesty's most loyal opposition, so the government is collapsing. Now that's putting too fine a point in it, but I think, yeah, Boris Johnson, he's seriously weakened. Right, thank you for watching. Goodbye.